12th of May 2023. And I mention this date so that we can remember this date. This is just one of those Warrafak moments again. And I'm not going to show you a lot of news clippings and articles, extractions and things like that. I'm just going to talk about something that we as South Africans must seriously take note of. If you are someone that keeps yourself informed about world events, you will know what a color revolution means. That is an instrument created by the Americans to overthrow governments. And that, let's call it, overthrow mechanism is done from a playbook. Everywhere in the world the same thing. Look at what's going on in Pakistan today. That is America. Look at the high levels of tension in Georgia. Americans. Same story in Moldova. And they did the same thing, and you saw it with your own eyes, before your eyes, in Ukraine. In 2014, they machined and manipulated that coup, the Maidan, and they got a pro-Western government in position and in place. That is what they do everywhere. That is what they do. Look at what's happening in Sudan. And I'm going to give you a little bit of some information about Sudan. We all know that there was a lot of problems in Sudan with internal conflicts, and then between the African Union and a few other countries, they managed to get things resolved between those parties and calm returned to Sudan. And then the Sudanese government made a mistake as far as the Americans was concerned. They signed a deal with Russia so that Russia could place a presence of their fleet in Sudan. The moment they signed that document, they signed their own death warrant. Because the next we saw the American representative of the UN pop out in Sudan, and then we saw the American ambassador popped in there, and then we saw Blinken getting involved there, and the shit was brewing. And the next moment, bam, major conflict between the two factions in Sudan. Now they are planning exactly the same shit for South Africa, because that is how they operate. They stir up turmoil, and in that chaos, they plunder the countries. Look at what they did to Syria, and still doing to Syria, but their time is running out in Syria. Here in South Africa, listen carefully to what I'm telling you. It started off with the electricity problems, and then that K.W. Miller appeared on the scene. And that man was openly promoting revolution. But the South Africans in general are not so gullible. And he was exposed very quickly. Then the next thing happened. Blinken pitches up here. And Naledi Pandor sends him packing. Then Janet Yellen pitches up here. And she didn't get a warm welcome. Then it became news, the fact of the BRICS party that's going to be here in South Africa this year. Now listen carefully. BRICS is a major issue for America. The American dollar is losing its grip on the world economy everywhere. The American economy is going to suffer like hell. Financially, the Americans are bankrupt. They owe $32 trillion. 25 generations down the line will still be paying that. They are in deep shit. And those that do not want to accept that is in denial and doesn't look at the facts. BRICS has overtaken the G7 a few months ago in GDP. This is a major problem for the Americans. BRICS is a major problem. South Africa is currently chairing BRICS. Then they manufactured that fucking ludicrous warrants for the arrest of Putin. But what did that Putin warrants do in South Africa? The DA jumped on the wagon, they will arrest Putin. And there is other groups that are also promoting I see this guys that want us to sit in the Cape, even they want to arrest Putin. Are they fucking crazy? Medvedev said clearly, arrest Putin and it's a de facto declaration of war against Russia. Okay, let's leave that alone. Come back. Now here in South Africa, our energy problem is disturbing the population tremendously. It's going to be a small spark that's going to light a huge fire. Everything in the playbook of the Americans. The only problem that they have that I can see is who will be the regime that they're going to put in place. The DA is the logical choice. And the DA sent the delegation to New York, to America a while back, and they went and they pledged their forever alliance to the Americans. Whoever is backing the West is backing a dying empire. Accept it. You can try and bluff yourself as much as you like. The West is done. They're morally corrupt, they're financially bankrupt, and they have allowed themselves to be demilitarized in Ukraine. Now the problem that we have here in South Africa is who will the Americans put in power? Because that is what they do when they generate these color revolutions. They get somebody in the seat that are 100% under their control. Look at Zelensky. He's got zero power. The bloody thing is a puppet and that's it. Fact of the matter is, who will it be in South Africa? Their problem with the DA is the DA has got a white leader. And a white president in South Africa will never fly with the libs in America. So, be concerned. Who the hell are they going to pick to take that position? We might see something ludicrous, like Steenhuisen falling out of a window and my money brought back to the DA. That could happen. And my money will be a logical choice. He's married to a Rothschild woman. Never forget that. And then, yesterday, all of a sudden that ambassador came out with that shit about we are selling weapons to Russia. Think about that. Think about that. Last night I saw an article in one of my sources where apparently Biden instructed this American ambassador here to push this weapon thing. You and I living in South Africa know it's a bullshit story. The NEL can't even supply enough ammunition for our own military. And on top of it, here's a tidbit. Half of the NEL belongs to Rheinmetall, which is German. So if we are supplying weapons to Russia, it's actually Germany that is part of that supply. But I'm not even going to pay attention to that, the weapon story. It's a shit story. But it's the American ambassador that does it. Now listen carefully. Look that ambassador's history up. He comes out of the Pentagon. So on this Friday morning, I'm warning all my fellow South Africans The Americans are machining a color revolution in our country. It is going to be a shit show of stellar proportions. And in that fiasco, they are going to get their hands on Eskom and on all our minerals. Think about that. That is their plan. And we better be alert to it. And then I saw this morning, Kali Kriel and Flipbase making a Moorse story about how stupid it was to support Russia. For fuck's sakes, in 2 articles in Marula Media, they showed their true colors. I've heard the rumors many times about them. Now, with them solidly jumping in, supporting America, tells you the whole bloody story. It is going to be a hard pill for South African whites to swallow, to make peace with the fact that solidarity and AfriForum may be tainted. What the fuck is that? But I am beyond being surprised. Just remember, they are now basically in 3rd or 4th gear for their color revolution. Don't forget, they've got a big military base in Botswana. What we must hope and pray for is that Wagner has already got a presence in South Africa, because the Americans will use their soldiers in Botswana to conclude the revolution in our country. Open your eyes. We can be very glad that the ANC is solidly in charge of government. Yes, they are also tainted. Cyril is sitting on the fence. On the one hand, he's been pumped full of money from the West, so he owes them. But on the other hand, there is BRICS. And the vast majority of the population of South Africa is in favor of BRICS. If Cyril fucks up with BRICS, he is done. But he is sitting on the fence, and it's a barbed wire fence. He's going to get his nuts hooked up. Listen to what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is, the future is East, not the West. And we have to make peace with that and accept it. These guys that are sitting in the Cape, they're trying to be independent in that. They must be very alert. It will never happen under the current cabal. Just remember, the Americans, they promoted this shit of a rules-based order. And as Putin said it so well, they make the rules and then they order the other people. That is what rules-based order actually means. So, to recap, the Americans are busy with a color revolution for South Africa. We must not get ourselves trapped in that. They have played their cards. K.W. Miller with the Eskom shit, Blinken, Yellen, and now this ambassador stirring shit about the arms. And the DA is playing 100% with them, pushing this damn ship story and all that cuck. And I did a skidmark about that. So we better be aware. The DA is not what many people think they are. They and the ANC, same thing, just different colors. And you must not forget this. Color revolutions is the way the Americans take control over countries. Reminder, Pakistan currently, Georgia a few weeks ago. Look at that. Don't forget that. Sudan currently. South Africa is next. And the playbook is open. American soldiers on our borders in Botswana. American foreign affairs officials fucking around in our country. Now this American ambassador with his shit, he is out of the Pentagon. Don't forget that. We do not have trustworthy leadership in South Africa. We don't have it. We have to deal with the shit we have. The fact of the matter is, Cyril is not the president. He's a puppet. Don't forget it. Why the fuck do you think he cannot make decisions? But at least China and Russia has got a firm grip on him. And that could be our savior. I don't think the Chinese and the Russians are going to allow the Americans to take South Africa, because South Africa's strategic value on the globe is too big and too important for the East to surrender it. Think back. Those big scary Russian bombers that visited us, what did they do here? Came for a refuel. They just came here to show us that they can reach here. Then that fleet exercises. Here we're sitting here talking today. We know that the Russians dispatched a hell of a lot of their submarines a few weeks ago, all armed with the nuclear weapons and supersonic, hypersonic missiles. They send them into the sea. Where are they? I won't be surprised if there is one or two cruising around the southern tip of Africa. And then I saw an article this morning, Putin said, forget a video conference. This BRICS meeting is too important. 19 countries that want to join BRICS. I'm coming in person. Be ready. And then some idiot, also from the DA, made a suggestion that this plane that was here a few days ago brought weapons and communication systems for Putin's visit. What the fuck are they talking about? Do they realize that Putin comes with a Murva aeroplane and he has other airplanes with him? He'll bring all the manpower and the weapons and everything that they need. So don't listen to all this shit that they try to give you to blind you. Keep your eye on the ball. The ball is South Africa, and the Americans is trying to kick that ball into their court. Remember this. Color revolutions, designed by the Americans, managed by the Americans, financed by the Americans, to get American puppets in charge of the country. Please give me a like and subscribe and share the thing and think about these things. To you, it may sound as if I'm off my rocker. Yes, and I've got my cap on, and I've got this cap on for a reason. Fact of the matter is, they are planning a color revolution for South Africa. And the playbook is open, and a lot of the pieces are already on the board. And by the way, go and take a look at the American embassy in Pretoria. It looks like a fucking fort. It's not an embassy. It's a fort. Go and look at it. And that thing, what you see above the ground, there's 5 times more underground. Ask yourself what the fuck is underground in that embassy. Have a great weekend, and don't forget to braai.